Teams are always looking for speed. Penn State is always looking for speed at the receiver position. And that's what we're talking about today. Speed from Kaden Saunders, the four-star receiver from Ohio. We're going to get into what he does well outside of just that natural speed that he has and that his family has, by the way. His sister is a great hurdler from what I've seen on the internet. When we talk about his T. Frank's Film Room. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. We'll be getting to all of that, a guy that has committed to Penn State so long ago in the process that sometimes you forget a little bit about him in the machinations of the recruiting process, but don't do that because he may be one of the best offensive weapons that Penn State has recruited in quite some time. Tell you about him today on T. Frank's Film Room. Like the video if you enjoy my breakdowns of Penn State football commits. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel because you don't want to miss any of T. Frank's Film Room as they come out on these Penn State football players for the class of 22 as we wrap that up. And of course, the class of 23 and beyond. Let's meet Kaden Saunders. He is the four-star on-3 prospect, 232nd player in the nation, 34th overall wide receiver, 9th player in the class of Ohio. On3 consensus has him as a 93.35 recruit. So a very good football player no matter how you slice it. Little quiet his senior year. And as always, there's context to fill in. Did he take a step back? Was he injured? No. The issue was, if you watched him blow up the recruiting circuits over this past summer, and then you were expecting big things from Kaden Saunders, he does play as a receiver in an offense. And I don't want to be mean to any young quarterback trying to figure it out, but this is what he was dealing with quite a bit in his senior season of just couldn't get the ball down the football field. And that is a little bit frustrating for an evaluation standpoint because I thought this was poised to be a very special year from Kaden Saunders, who got I think, demonstrably better over the course of his career. So, still a good year from the four-star receiver from Westerville, Ohio. But this is the problem really is his main skill is being a deep vertical threat in an offense. His deep receiving is some of the best that I've seen come to Penn State in quite some time. He can get up the field in a hurry, and he is a slot threat in high school, and he's going to be a slot threat going forward. Just watch a junior season, even his sophomore season, just breathtaking speed down the football field. That is what he's going to bring to Penn State, a vertical threat in the slot, a la KJ Hamler, and I think that's a fair comparison at 5'10", 160 pounds. He can play outside. There's nothing saying he can't play outside, but even in high school, the majority of his snaps did come from inside the formation, so that is what you're going to expect going forward. And it's not just the deep receiving skills, not just going down the football field, his route running, and not just his technical ability, his physical ability to change directions is uncanny. I love watching the tops of his routes because you can barely see them. His transition skills, watch how quickly he just beats the defensive back here. Foot in the ground, going upfield, touchdown. This one, you just watch how fast. Bang! Guy takes one step outside, easy touchdown. That's the transition skill. That's the separation skill he's going to be able to deploy at Penn State. You love the high point there on the football. I don't know that high pointing the ball and contested catches are going to be his forte, but the hands are certainly legitimate based on that. So I love all of these things about Kaden Saunders. And if you've been following Penn State football, you know Kaden Saunders. You know his skill set. So this is really kind of an examination of where he is as a senior. The speed, I think, increased since we last watched him. The play at the position, some of his route running, some of his technical abilities. I was a little concerned that maybe he was a pure vertical player. He has answered all of those concerns in his change of direction skills. And this season, as maybe it wasn't exactly what we were expecting, it might have been really good for him. So to get the ball in his hands right away, they put him at quarterback for some wildcat snaps. He also took a lot of snaps in short yardage situations in catch and run, which is an area that I thought he had to improve in his game. So this season of growth might be better for him than if he had just had a quarterback that could launch the ball down the field and he can outrun everybody. Because this was an area that I thought he did improve his senior season. And these ones I'm leading with here, I think these are more of what we're going to see from Kaden Saunders going forward, not necessarily some of the crazy juke people out, break angles at an insane level like he does on this play. And that's really, to me, what it is he is a guy that is fast and elusive. He's going to break angles, not so much as tackles, which we'll get to in a second. But you watch here, this is a thing he needed to work on, is playing through trash, playing through traffic, and making plays with the ball in his hands. Because there were times last year I thought there were a little bit extra yards he could get and add this level to his game. And he has done that this year. So really impressive addition to the way he plays football. And I think a huge benefit to Penn State, because you don't want a guy you can only target at one area or two areas of the football field. You don't want a guy that's just a deep specialist or a guy that is, a mid-range specialist. So 5'10", 160 pounds. Early on in his career, you thought there was a chance he might grow and get a little bigger and develop size-wise. Doesn't have the biggest frame in the world, but you thought maybe he'd get a little bit taller. That didn't quite happen. 5'10", 161, like I said before. He doesn't have to get any bigger, because as we've seen, football is about space and speed. And if you can get guys in those situations that can break tackles or break angles like you just saw, they can go the distance. They can be difference makers. They don't have to be the biggest, most dominant guy in the world, as long as they have a way to win. And I do think there is one way to win with the ball in his hands after the catch, but that's going to be the development going forward, is he doesn't have to get bigger, but he does have to get stronger. There's no way around it. He is not a guy that breaks tackles. As you saw, none of those plays did anyone get their hands on him. When they do, I think it's a fair comparison to what Jahan Dotson had, even as a senior, where you get your hands on him, you can usually get him down. So this may never improve, and he may just be a guy who is dynamic with the ball in his hands and isn't a guy that can break tackles and get yacked that way. And it doesn't necessarily matter, but this is just the context of what he is as a football player. Here's a great example right here. Breaks the angle, right? Gets to the outside. Great. Not that he's going to break that tackle and get a lot of yards, but that's just an example of he didn't break that tackle. So I love Kaden Saunders' game. I love the route running, the precision, the vertical element to what he brings to the table. All of that is going to be a huge asset. And on top of that, you see those yards after the catch ability. He is a kick returner as well, with multiple kick returns for touchdowns. That can be an asset in the special teams game that Penn State just simply did not have this year. They didn't have a guy or enough guys that can return and make a difference in the third phase of the game. Now, the difference is going to be, again, that size factor. I don't know that you necessarily want to put a guy back there that isn't big and physical to break tackles in kick return, but as a punt returner, you saw the dynamism with the ball in his hands, the ability to make people miss in a small area and get yards. That is going to be an area where I think he can contribute at some point in his career. Early, late, middle, doesn't matter. The speed and the explosiveness, all of that stuff is going to be a part of his game. So he's going to be a guy that can affect the game in two different phases and has elite movement skills. Didn't really get into a lot of his physical abilities, but his hips, change of direction, feet, quickness, agility, all high level. That's what's making him, despite his size, a top 200 player in the nation. So Kaden Saunders, a huge part of the class of 2022, and a guy that I think is pretty well known at this point as far as what he is and he isn't on a national scale. The next question is going to be, and I know Penn State fans want to know stuff like this all the time, can he get on the field early? I think in the long run, he could play both inside and outside. But the question is going to be, what is that development curve like when he does get press coverage more often? He shows a good release package at the line of scrimmage. He can make guys pay for it if they whiff on him, but it's just going to be about refinement there to get him in the route and not lose his ability to create separation if guys can jam him or get their hands on him and play physically throughout the route. So that's going to be something to monitor going forward. The slot would be the easiest place to deploy him because it's easier to get a free release, which means a guy like Parker Washington then has to play on the outside. I think that can happen as well. So for Kaden Saunders, his path to the field, I think, is initially narrow, but in the long term can play either on the boundary or in the slot, depending on how he develops in the strength and conditioning program. But either way, Penn State gets a gem, another KJ Hamler type deep threat with speed, explosiveness, and big play ability. Some of the stuff they were missing in 2022, they are reloading in that in a big way with some of their recruits in the class of 2022. That'll do it for T. Frank's Film Room. Again, if you like it, like the video, It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and it helps out the channel. We'll be doing more of these on the class of 2022. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. Talk to you next time.